Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Joe Leonardo. Joe Leonardo, how the hell are you?
I'm good.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And then if
Yeah.
the people want to see you do stand-up comedy in New York City, which of course they do, where are you playing next? And also, where can they find you online?
Well, I host a mic, Crystal Lake, Brooklyn, every Thursday from 6:30 to 8. I'm there pretty much every week. I'm doing stand-up around the whole city. I also host a monthly show at UCB Hell's Kitchen called the Flying Blind Sketch Show, the only sketch show where actors have no idea what their next line is.
How can you make that happen? How does that work?
It's basically like a live stage reading.
Okay.
So the writers write their sketches knowing that the actors won't know what they'll be saying, so they kind of like mess with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I also have the writers read their stage directions, so they write them in their voice so they can make jokes on top of the sketches.
Oh, wow. How'd you come up with that idea?
I wanted to find a way to read on stage. Yeah, because I'm a very nervous public reader. Yeah.
You thought it'd be hilarious to work that in?
So when I first started doing the show at the Pit, maybe around 5 years ago now, I was reading all of the stage directions. So the writers would write the sketches, the actors would act them, and I would read everything the writers wrote.
Because that was funny.
Yeah, and I would kind of do it in like a big character or a big voice or whatnot, right? And I'm such a horrible reader that I would kind of use it as a way to, I'm reading slow and big because I want people to understand it.
Yeah.
But really, I was just nervous about reading.
Oh, that's cool. And I think Mulaney in, the Oh Hello, Too Much Tuna guys on Broadway, I think he had a cool joke where he says, Gil reads stage direction and reads them slanted because they're in italics or something. And I thought that was pretty funny. Like you're almost breaking, I don't know if it's breaking the fourth wall or whatever, but it's showing us that there's additional opportunities to make people laugh. And I think reading stage direction is just a really cool one.
Yeah, and a lot of people that come to UCB, where the show is now, are kind of inside baseball. So they're students of improv or sketch, so they get the whole idea of rehearsals, you know what I mean, for sketch. So they get that the actors are trying to figure out what the sketch is while they're doing it.
Yeah.
And the writers are like fucking with them.
That is so cool. And so do you do... now it's through UCB Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah,
and
I've been there for about a little over a year.
And I know with the Pitts program, you have to do both write and perform. Like, is it the same with UCB? Do you write and perform?
So with UCB?
Do you? Yeah, with UCB.
Yeah, I was on their house. I was on the Lloyd team for almost like 5 years. I was on their Lloyd program, not one specific team, just on their program forever. And then I stepped down earlier this year. To kind of like throw myself back into feeling nervous. And the thing is, when you're on a team for a very long time, you rely on the institution to provide you with a audience.
Yeah.
And to provide you with, stage time.
So you're spoiled.
So
you
you're
just
spoiled.
got too spoiled and pampered, and you're like, I'm losing my raw just edge.
I had a moment where, because the way their improv program works is there's Lloyd, and that's kind of junior varsity, and the varsity is like the Herald program, right?
Yeah, Herald was, that was a big Chicago. I'm from Chicago, and I always heard about the Herald being the long-form improvisation technique.
So they both do that form, right?
Okay.
But their Herald night is like their premiere version of that show.
So that's varsity, and then the Lloyd.
Junior varsity is Lloyd, because it's like Herald, Lloyd, whatever. It's playing that.
Okay.
Anyways, I was hosting Herald night to promote Flying Blind one time when I was on Lloyd night, and I was watching Herald. And instead of just enjoying the show, I thought to myself, like, I can fucking do this. Why won't they put me on?
Yeah.
Why won't they, promote me to Herald?
Yeah.
And that's the moment I thought to myself, I am in this for the wrong reason.
Wow.
And I need to leave.
And so that was via the Pit, and that's when you went to UCB?
No, that was when I was at UCB, because I did it at the Pit kind of just as a show where they give you a slot and you promote it yourself and all that stuff. Because the Pit is a little more open with their programming.
Okay.
You can kind of just pitch a show, and if you bring an audience, they don't give a fuck what you do.
Oh, cool.
UCB kind of has, I'm not going to say they curate their shows, but you have to pitch the show to them. It has to fit their brand or whatnot, and the artistic direction needs to, the artistic team or the artistic director needs to, like, approve your show.
Okay.
Right, so it needs to fit in. And I just been with UCB forever, so they allowed me to do it.
Okay. And so are you also doing stand-up or just sketch?
No, I do mostly stand-up now.
Okay. And then
we kind of just went on a tangent about sketch and improv.
Yeah. So how do they what muscles do each take and which of them do you have, and which of them would you like to strengthen?
That's a great question. So let's break it down. Right. Improv basically is the best tool to teach you how to be on stage, how to talk to an audience, how to communicate an idea, how to articulate what you're trying to get across, right? Because in improv, you're kind of building this world together, and you have to find like group minds. So you really can't be coy. You can't be misleading.
Yeah.
You have to be super direct.
That sucks.
It's
well, meaning like it would lose the nuance. Like you know, if you didn't have to be so blunt and direct, you could be more nuanced with coy, like you said,
here's
being
the thing.
coy or whatever.
That's an interesting opinion. Because you just do stand up.
I don't do anything.
You don't do anything?
I podcast hilarious people like you.
Oh, great. So great. As a reviewer, then you'll really appreciate this. So think of it all as tools, right? Okay. So improv is like a hammer. If I needed to screw in like a screw, right, it would be shitty to have just the hammer, right? So people that like shit on one of the other art forms, like, oh, improv sucks because da-da-da, or stand-up is you're lonesome and you're shitty, whatnot. They're not viewing the full toolbox. They're looking at their tool and seeing what they're trying to do, and they're like, well, this tool doesn't work for what I'm trying to do with it. Yeah. The best way to look at it is improv is a great tool to learn how to be on stage, to articulate ideas, to really concrete, to hit jokes in a concrete way that the audience will get it when you do it, right?
Yeah, because it's group mind, so everybody's going to laugh at that.
And also you build your personality. Oh, okay. Right? Stand-up is a writing tool, the way I view it. Okay. Is you are crafting material. You are finding your rhythm, right? It doesn't really teach you how to be on stage. Right. I mean, you can do a million open mics and you can learn how to be on stage as well. Yeah. But improv is almost like cocaine, a version of that, right? It's almost like the steroid version of that. So stand-up kind of teaches you how to like be on stage, how to write, all that jazz.
And sketch would also treat you, I mean, it would be kind of a combination of both?
Sketch is a combination of both, but it's also working as a team. And if you're a writer, specifically, how to work in a writer's room, how to pitch an idea, how to work on someone else's idea, how to collaborate.
How to write for their voice and their
talent. How to write for their voice, how to write someone else's pitch. Yeah. You're not necessarily just writing your own material. Someone pitches you an idea. I have an idea where I'm like a frog who shits gold. I don't know.
Yeah, and the actor would bring that to me and I'd have to write that.
And then you'll be like, okay, I see the humor in there. I get your pitch and I'll write beats of that. Okay. Right? And I'll put that. And my Flying Blind is kind of like if all of them had group sex. Because it's me being the stand-up, because I'm hosting it. Okay. People are also, I encourage the writers to fuck with me, to make fun of me on stage.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, a lot of things are pointed to me, and I look to the audience like, oh, my God, can you believe this shit? You know?
We recently had him, Matt Stores, and he has a comic show that is him. He's a lawyer in real life, and so he interrupts people. He almost fact-checks jokes in real time. So he interrupts stand-up comedians. And so I just love these novel formats because they're kind of unexpected, and they seem fresher than something like, give me the name of this, give me the name of that. Like, and I did an improv class and it was awful just because you're on stage with other people who also wanted the limelight. Yeah. And so I almost think some people bad-mouthing one over the other is because they, it's either they like control or they don't. Exactly. So if they like control, they need to be in stand-up. And so what are some of the things that are, and I guess, you have to write for stand-up and you also have to kind of reveal maybe your outlook on life. Who is Joe Leonardo and how does he see the world? So what are some of those things that are making their way into your act now that you've done improv and you're comfortable on stage?
I'm a big tech guy. I also host a tech podcast called Funny as Tech, where I kind of am like the ignorant voice of the audience because I really don't have a tech background, but I'm just enjoy it. Like I like cool shit. Like I look at the Cybertruck, I'm like, I want to fucking ride that thing.
Yeah, I don't know anything looks cool. Yeah, and so you don't know tech, but you're talking about it as a fan. Yeah, that's cool.
But I have a co-host whose name is David Ryan Polgar. He's a tech ethicist. Nice. And he's a professional and a former lawyer.
Yeah, and so I guess we're going to talk about some of that. Tell me a little bit about, give me the cliff notes on the cliff notes of the ethics of our technological future.
Well, let's use AI for example, because that's like a big thing that's going on, and it's just like cool. Yeah. There's ethics involved with. Is it okay? There's a great philosophy question called the trolley problem.
Okay.
So if you have a robot, right, and let me explain it in the old-fashioned way. So you have a trolley, right?
Oh, full of people, and you're going to run over a person.
Yes.
Yeah. And so do you kill? Do you let the trolley disrail or go off the rail so they die, or do you save the person who's on the trolley track?
Exactly.
Okay.
So us as humans having that conversation, right? We can kind of debate it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But let's say we put
the robot would
where
make
the
a very
robot
quick
has
decision.
to make the decision.
He would just speed up the trolley and kill the motherfucker.
Yes. Or do we design the robot to not do that, to kill you, to save 6 people, as opposed to just the individual who's the driver?
Yeah. It depends if the programmer is on the trolley track. If he's like, well, I really do spend a lot of time on trolley tracks. Maybe we'll program the thing to save me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is a human programming it. And is there any chance that is going to stop being true, where the robot will override the programming?
Well, the robot will do whatever whatever's programmed.
Right.
The robot doesn't have any sentience. It's just it follows code.
But the gray area of interpretation, should we save the human race from itself by killing everybody because they're polluting their own?
That's
Earth,
the big question. So regulators have to figure out. That's when it comes to that's the ethics issue, and government bodies have to make decisions, which aren't good at making decisions.
Or they go where the money is, and so we're going to have to figure out where are the lobbyist dollars going? Are they coming from Elon Musk, and are they going to people on that regulation committee?
Yeah, and these are the ethics.
Yeah,
right. There's a whole world of just questions of what do you do with AI drones fighting in wars.
Yeah, who the fuck knows, right? Yeah. And so it depends on, and until there is regulation, it's going to be self-regulation, which is probably, it's motivated by profits and things like that. And so on your podcast, which is called
Funny as Tech,
are you kind of making jokes? Are you kind of the entertainment? Because it sounds like this guy is crazy, just knowledgeable about this stuff. And so are you just kind of like lightening the mood and
kind of?
Okay.
Yeah. So we have David, who's the expert. We also have either like a thought leader, or like someone who's in the field of whatever we're talking about, and they'll explain it in a wonkish way that nobody understands.
Yeah.
David will have the conversation. I'll be like, wait a minute, can you explain this so regular people can understand?
Yeah.
Or I'll play like the ignorant person being like, well, let me think of a situation to apply this. Can you explain this better?
Oh, I love that. And there's also, I think we had Adam Mamawala on here, and he has a show called Serious Matters or something, where they also have like that kind of serious motherfucker talking for 5-10 minutes, and then just comics get up there and riff like crazy all over it, and that's just great. And so when that's on all the podcast networks, and when is that weekly or when
that's pretty much weekly, bi-weekly.
Okay. And how long has that been going on?
Oh my God, 4 years now.
Okay. And so what were the future? What was the tech hilarity back 4 years ago? What were you guys talking about 4 years ago?
The future of Facebook. Google Glass.
Now, if I went back, that's funny because it's obsolete. But if I went back to see your predictions about Facebook's future, would they have been more
pessimistic?
Yeah, optimistic or pessimistic.
Mine's always pessimistic.
So, did you foresee this?
I was like, especially they just keep hoarding data.
Yeah.
And they'll put a little veneer on it saying like, we're about making people connect.
Yeah.
What are you doing with all this fucking data?
Yeah. Well, they're just using it to sell you, to sell you ads. So they're making money off it. But I love that.
They make a big chunk of money is where they use this data and then sell it to campaigns or sell it to governments where they can use it to kind of control people or articulate a point.
And did you kind of foresee that they could potentially swing an election? Like if I went to your episode to Funniest Tech 4 years ago, did Joe Leonardo or his ethicist lawyer buddy, did they predict something? So
I'm sure we've brought someone on that was saying something, and I'm sure my reaction was, that's fucked up. I believe it. It sounds crazy.
Yeah. And so
anything that sounds crazy to me or like is like a big conspiracy, I'm always like, I believe that.
Yeah. So are you doing the same thing about like Amazon Ring and stuff like that? Are you envisioning a surveillance state with stuff like that?
Well, we're kind of already there. It's just the switch isn't turned on.
Okay.
Does that make sense? We have a lot of home devices.
Yeah.
I just bought a Google Home Max with a little camera and the screen on it because my brother just had a baby. And he lives far away. We can talk to each other and stuff
cool.
like so. He got one, and I got one.
So you just helped out the machine.
Exactly.
And so we were also going to talk about the other end of the spectrum, which is off the grid living. And it sounds like that there's going to be bad shit coming down the pike, but you're still buying these Google devices. Are you not yet ready to commit to off the grid living?
No. Well, I would like to retire off the grid.
Okay.
I think a lot of people.
If the machines will let you, the machines might not let you, homie.
It's funny because the technology is getting there because solar and here's the big bottleneck problem is energy.
Okay.
Right? We can't extract enough energy from solar yet to be fully sustainable. Right? It needs to be in tandem with something else.
Okay.
Right? So solar and wind or solar and just regular old fossil fuel, right?
And nuclear, right? That's totally just environmentally safe.
Honestly, here's something crazy. I am kind of pro nuclear.
Yeah. And I mean it's environmentally conscious, but it's just dangerous as all.
It is dangerous if you stack up the numbers of the thing is, when nuclear goes bad, it's like publicly bad.
It's
right?
bad for politicians.
It's
right?
bad for politicians, and it just makes it's a big PR thing.
Yeah,
because when something goes wrong, as opposed to smoking, how many people die a day from smoking? But it's small and gradual, so we don't see the big picture.
Right.
But with nuclear, it's like once every 5 years, 100,000 people get cancer.
Yeah,
right.
And they're also saying because of that, it needs to be farther away from the public, and it takes money and resources to get that energy to where it's going.
But nuclear is carbon free.
Oh, cool.
Nuclear is the things you just don't know what to do with the waste.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And they would just dump it into the Santa Monica Bay or whatever.
Or, shoot it at the sun. I don't know how you
do you think
now.
there's any fix like that? Because, people are so quick to predict, our world is over in 5 years, our world is over in 8 years, the point of no return in a couple of years. Do we think that when it gets real bad, we'll ultimately come together and find a fix that no one's thought of, like going to fucking Mars or something?
I mean,
because right now they want to do the carbon sucking out. Eventually, I think the Republicans are like, we're going to plant some trees and we're also going to invest some money. We're going to incentivize.
The Republicans aren't saying plant trees.
Oh, sure they
are.
Oh, yeah. So they want to plant 1,000 trees because, of course, that doesn't.
To offset what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's carbon capture, sequestration, but also they want to incentivize people to have carbon, sucking carbon out of the fucking air like it's Spaceballs with the big vacuum cleaner. And I think there's huge Wikipedia articles explaining the different ways that this could be done. Do we think that everybody is ever going to come together, the right and the left in America, to ultimately come up with a big fix that no one's ever thought of?
I don't think it's going to be governments coming together for that. Okay. I think if we do it, we'll have to innovate our way out of it.
Okay. So it'll be like the Elon Musk and
someone like
an
Elon
Bezos,
Musk,
right?
Someone like a Jeff Bezos, or maybe some scientifically funded project of students.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it comes from a college. A big thing with driverless cars right now is a lot of that technology advanced because there's a lot of funding going on for colleges to make little racetracks.
Oh, cool.
And they make driverless cars races.
Yeah.
You can win a race, a rally race or whatever.
Yeah, and even companies are having little towns where it's only self-driving cars and things
Phoenix, Arizona is one of them.
Oh,
for
cool.
Waymo, I think Google has a startup called Waymo, and they're in Phoenix, which is completely flat. Dry, so there's no weather.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great starting point.
Yeah. And so off-the-grid living in your future, like after Joe Leonardo just gets every comic.
After I retire.
The guy's the improv, the stand-up comedy, after
I rule comedy.
Yeah, after he rules comedy.
With an iron fist.
After Louis C.K., we need a hero, and that's Joe Leonardo.
Yeah.
Like, how is off-the-grid living going to look for you? I mean, it's going to be a little bit of solar. You're going to have a big wind turbine outside your cave. I have a flip phone right here from about 10 years ago. I mean, are you going to be able to go free of all your devices?
I mean, no.
Because I see a smartphone right here on the table.
You do. Obviously, it's not binary. It's not going from one to the other.
Okay.
But I do see it as maybe a couple months living somewhere off the grid, and then a couple months living back in New England somewhere.
And that's not because you're scared of. I mean, is it because you care about your carbon footprint, or
no,
because
I
you're
have a family and a life?
Oh, okay.
I'm sure I have.
But why the 2 months of off the grid living at all? Like, are you scared of our corporate overloads?
No, because I like camping. I grew up kind of camping and stuff. No, it has nothing to do with
it's not fear of the robots.
It's more about me than no.
I like fucking nature. I like hiking.
I like nature. Yeah.
And so
I like tinkering. I like building shit.
Yeah.
I like restoration. Honestly, the majority of videos I watch on YouTube are just like a guy will have an old firefighter helmet from like 1920 that's all rusty, and he restores it.
Dude, that says a lot about what you give a shit about. And the tinkering, like, do you think that there's something akin to tinkering in all your comic writing?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Writing is all tinkering.
So do you
stand-up is tinkering.
So like a joke and a set is just a series of moving parts that Joe Leonardo has to put together in a funny way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if I see a Joe Leonardo set, which he can, I mean, across platforms, I'll just look at Joe Leonardo comedy, and then I'll be able to find all your upcoming dates. But your soonest date is Hell's Kitchen, UCB, and that's not stand-up, but that's sketch.
That's sketch. Yeah, I just did a show in Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh, cool.
I wish this was before that.
Yeah. And then we had Shauna Lane on. She didn't do the same Connecticut show, did she?
Wow. Do you know what theater?
No, but it was run by somebody she likes a lot in booking shows. It's Lizzie something or other. She books big shows out in Connecticut. Okay, but yeah, you didn't
Mine was
cross.
at CT Improv.
Okay.
It was a stand-up show with a bunch of New York comics.
Oh, cool. But they'll also, by looking at Joe Leonardo comedy, they'll find any other upcoming dates you have.
Go to joeleonardo.com for all your Joe Leonardo needs.
And when they walk out of that thing, Belly's just tired with laughter, what are they going to remember about a Joe Leonardo stand-up set?
He's aloof and clever, I guess.
Yeah. Do you come off as aloof?
A little bit. I'm not a preachy person. I hate clapter.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So it's not like give it up for that. Give it up for that last guy. And also,
clapter. I mean, in the terms of, I like making a point. I have political opinions, but I like comedy.
Okay.
I like jokes. I like people going up and telling a joke and seeing things in a different perspective. I'm not like a political comedian or anything like that, even though I think the world's going to end in 3 years.
Yeah, so a political comedian might just get clapped. Like, I appreciate what you said, but I'm only going to clap because it didn't surprise me enough to make me laugh.
It's the jokes aren't necessarily... the jokes are there to service the opinion, and not the opinion is there to service the humor.
Oh.
Clapter is when we're laughing because we agree.
Okay.
Not we're laughing because we think it's funny.
And that's what makes Joe Leonardo stand out, and that's why people are going to look at Funny as Tech.
Funny as Tech.
And UCB Hell's Kitchen.
UCB Hell's Kitchen.
And the name of the sketch group is...
Oh, the sketch show is Flying Blind Sketch Show.
Which is so hilarious because you are...
It's a good
writing it as people. I would love to see Saturday Night Live try to do that. Could they do that with any of their sketch performers?
No. I mean, but they kind of do it with Michael Che and Colin Jost.
Yeah.
Sometimes Colin Jost will read jokes that Michael Che will throw in. Or Stefan.
Okay.
John Mulaney used to throw in jokes that Bill Hader didn't know.
And that's why he was laughing his ass off.
Exactly. So that's kind of the premise. Honest, if you think of Stefan, think of a full fucking sketch show.
Yeah.
That's kind of that where the actors are like one step behind.
That is the perfect promotion for Flying Blind.
It's the best. It's the highest selling show for its time slot at UCB.
Wow. Okay, well check that out. And then do they get tickets through UCB Hell's Kitchen, or do they get tickets through Joe Leonardo Comedy?
You can go to UCB.com, or you can go to my website and find it. But if you just Upright Citizens Brigade Hell's Kitchen, you find it on the schedule.
Yeah, Flying Blind, and also Funny as Tech. Joe Leonardo, thank you so much.
Yeah.